Bhaumik sir. Thank you, sir. We have resumed, sir.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know, hands-on session. Actually, it's very difficult to take it in online mode.
Yes, sir.
But
Yes.
anyway, I really, I think professor has also requested me to come over there, but due to this second wave in Mumbai, it is becoming very difficult to move out. Otherwise, had it been the decreasing trend, I would have definitely come.
Yes, sir.
It is the situation is now worsening here, so it is not a. I may get stuck also there. So okay, so let us start our discussion. Okay. Now, basically, when we are having the data, we have found out that which are the rows which has complete, which has at least one of the predictors, one of the variables is not available. So just to check, write down this LV. Suppose that 28th row, it's saying that 28th row something is missing. One of the predictor is missing or variable is missing. 28 comma. Keep this is blank. This is how we can see the rows.
Right.
So now execute this line. See that here PO4 is missing. Can you see everyone? Here PO4 is missing. Or maybe what happened to the 38? Algae 38 comma. Okay, let us execute this line. And here MnO2 is missing. So that means some of the, at least one of the predictors or one of the variables is missing. That is why we are getting there. This is coming as if this row is appearing as incomplete cases. Now, suppose that there are multiple strategies in analyzing data. There is not a single one. Now, suppose that you thought that you have enough data. Suppose you have thought that you have enough data, so you have so basically you thought that I'm going to drop all the rows for which I have at least one missing observation is there. So how can I do that? So suppose I am writing my final underscore algae data. So I'm writing this is my final data. This is going to be used for analysis. So what I'm going to consider, all the this down algae, the algae variables. Okay. And write down this in the, give it a third bracket and complete dot cases algae and then put a comma. So write this down. So exclamatory sign complete cases means which are missing, and only complete cases means where all the observations are available. Is this run successfully? So final algae, this is my data with this. Which we are going to use for further analysis. So remember that there is a comma after this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you got that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now just run this comment where just go to line number 55 where you have the not complete cases. Copy it and paste it. And instead of algae, just write down final underscore algae. So this is a cross check. It's always important to cross check that whatever the final data I am having, it is in the current shape or not. So how many are incomplete cases, whether there is any incomplete cases in final algae not. So let me execute this, and then I am executing this next line. Right? So they see that all have come out to be false. So there is no true basically. Okay. So there is no true. So all the values basically coming out to be false only. Okay. Can anybody tell me a shortcut that how can we say there is any true or not? Because when checking on the over the eye, I can miss something, right? So just let us learn a small trick. Please write it down. That you write down x as a c. Let's write a vector as say na, right? And say 4, 6, 7, and na. So write this down. As simple as that. So you print your x value. Sorry, I did not execute this. I printed my x. Okay, so you can consider x as a single variable. Now, what is the length of x? It is 5. So there are 5 values stored in x. But from here I can see that 2 values are not available. Right? So is.na, by using this function we can check x. If we write it down, true, false, 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 true. So that means not available, is.na. So first is not available and last one is not available. Okay. So how many of them are not available? So if I write down this sum is.na x, execute this line, and what I'm going to get coming is 2. There is total 2 values which is not available. This is a simple trick you can, while analyzing data, you can do that. That you have, this is a variable, this information where you have an x, and you know total length, and by is.na you can check whether it is true or false. So in this total row, if there are how number of true it is there, is if you add this up, you are going to get that particular number, which is going to give you that these many values or these many positions are there where the data is not available. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
This is a very high useful. Okay, now the same thing I can do here also. This is the small trick. So that means this is going to give me, this is going to return me only false, false, true, or whatever. It may be true also. If I add it up, so sum inside I am putting this, so it will give me the number which is equal to the number of true. If I do it, the number of true is 0. So that means there is no missing values, there is no missing rows. So 0 means no rows with missing values. Right? So this final algae data we can utilize safely now for our further analysis. Okay. Now get a, this is your final data is ready now. So your final data after missing value removal, after missing value removed, right, is ready, right? Now you can go for analyzing this. Okay. Now as per the immediately next step. So before going into that, let us understand the summary of the final algae. So this is the data. Let us see summary. Now note that, of course, definitely write down this line. Everybody should be able to see that. Okay. So as you see that the output is coming up. Output is coming up. So now these three variables which are as characters, rest all the variables are now actually understood as a what is called as a numeric variable. Okay. Now it is always better to check individual variables. Now it is always better check individual variables distribution. Now let us get into a little bit of idea of a distribution. How do you see distribution? Is basically you can write this down. You can check the distribution using this histogram command. Hist. Say final algae dollar. Say max pH and probability is equal to 2. This is basically the histogram of the max pH. So out of the histogram of max pH in all the 200 water bodies that was available, there is their distribution. It looks like this. Now note that some of the values, some of the rows are being removed. What is the final column? That in row, so number of rows are remaining over here in the final algae. So that means now there are 184 water bodies. So this is the histogram is based on the final data, which is 184 water bodies. I'm writing this as a comment, which is not there in the PowerPoint which is being provided to you. Okay, please note that there are many powerful imputation technique. So missing value imputation techniques are available. You can also choose one of them. Choose one of them, but it depends on the context. But it always depends on the context and the problem. Problem statement. Or it is also dependent on the data also, that how big data you are considering. Okay. So for example, recently we have tried to analyze the what is called so which are the species in India which are being taken from like who has been introduced to India, and some approximately 2,500 species for the plants basically we have found out those are being introduced to India, and out of them we have tried to understand that how many of them are naturalized, and out of who already got naturalized, how many of them got actually successfully invade into this country. Now many of the species you know already, like I think Alternanthera phylloxera and Mycenia micrantha, Lantana camera, and some of the other names I forgot. So these are the species which are being heavily invaded in India and creating a lot of trouble. So basically, we have tried to understand what is this invasion continuum, and out of for 715 species, we have found out that there are the information when we have collected, we have found that there are a lot of missing values. And when we try to, if we remove all the missing values, we are actually going to lose 60% of our data. So please always keep this in mind. In every situation, when you're analyzing the data, you may not have the flexibility to remove the complete row. For example, recently, just what we have tried to try to understand, that if we remove all the rows, 60% of the data are gone. And with rest of the 40% data, we will not be in a situation to build a reliable, robust predictive model. So what we actually had to do, we had to run different multiple missing value imputation techniques, and R does provide an excellent platform to do that. Like using random forest algorithm, there is some nice package called MissForest. Using that, you can do the missing value imputation techniques. So in most of the workshops, people actually say that when I see people say that, okay, you can change with median, you can change with mean, you can change with other things also for mode. There are 3-4 techniques which often been suggested, but many times it may not work also. So many times using some probabilistic algorithm also we perform this missing value imputation. So always remember that if you are in your analysis, if you come across such a missing value problem, do not throw that row out of the context, because in real life scenario it might happen that the information is not there. So what will you do? So we need to, with some probabilistic algorithm, it is possible to impute it, and then you utilize that data for further analysis. So this is just recently happened with us. So with the article that we have written for in understanding the invasion continuum of approximately 700 species which has invaded in India. So some of them are naturalized, or some of them are already got into the wild and they became invasive. So this is a cautionary mark over here. And this is the histogram, as you can see that. So basically this histogram is now based on 183 what is called water bodies, right? Similarly, you can see for the histogram of other variables also. The probability is equal to true, right? So as you can see that this is kind of a bit negatively skewed, right? Very bit of negatively skewed, you can see. Similarly, you can see for other variables also. Now it is always better if we can visualize all the picture in many pictures in a single plot. So you can do that using par mfro is equal to c, say 2, 2. That means in a window now you will be able to see 4 pictures. So say rest of the variables we can do over here. Final LG dollar. See there, I am not writing anything. I'm just writing the first 1 or 2 letters. R is automatically giving me rest of the things. True. And then possibly his final underscore LG dollar CLNO3 and probability is equal to true. Then again I can write down his final underscore LG, and you had NO3, next is NH4 and probability is equal to true. His final underscore LG dollar OPO4, right? And probability is equal to true. I'm not typing anything, I'm just letting R do it. So let this 4 line I executed parallelly, run. These are the 4 histogram that we have obtained, right? This is for algae, this is for chlorine, this is for NO3, and this is for NH4, this is for OPO4, right? As you can see that all the variables are positively skewed. Your observation is that So note down your observation. All these 4 variables are positively skewed. Okay. So this is just the same command I just carried out. I just changed the variables name. First is Cl, then NO3, then NH4, then OPO4.
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, par NF row is not, it says error, object NF row not found. Is it N or M, sir?
It is M.
MF.
MFROW.
Okay, sir.
MFROW is equal to C2, 2. So the
Yes, sir. Yes. MF row, we got it.
yeah, great. Now you can actually you can change these colors also. So in the comment you can write down call is equal to something maybe blue something, and some maybe call is equal to red, and some call is equal to maybe magenta, and some call maybe is equal to say gray only. Again you can just get colorful graphs. That's it. So okay. Now in general, in many times, it is a now the what is the problem? So here basically we are talking about correlation and regression. In this context, we have got this data, okay? And so these are the variables which are being considered as a predictors. And what is my hist of final algae? Say final algae A1 probability is equal to true. Similarly, I can do it for A3, A2, A3, A4 also, right? So these are basically the distribution of 4 algae, as you can see that. So these algae are also, as you can see that they are very much positively skewed distribution. So that means some of the ponds, what it actually tells you, that there are certain water bodies which has a very high density or very high density of algae, whereas in most of the ponds the density of algae is pretty small, which is happening uniformly for all the algae A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. Now the question is that whether this algae concentration, if I write down this concentration, can be predicted using these other predictors. What are those? So this may be there could be some particular season where there is a more algae is being observed. There is, and see whether there could be seasonal dependency also. There could be the NH4, OPO4, NO3, or MnO2, max pH, whether these are the important predictors for algae or not, right? So basically this, we try to build a predictive model where my response is the algae. So where my response is algae, right? And what is the predictors? These predictors are my water quality parameters, right? Water quality parameters, or what type of water body, right? Or it could be seasonal dependence also, it could be there, right? So whether these are the determining factors, or which are the predictors, or which are the variables are important uh, for which are giving us a good prediction for the algae concentration. So automatically the problem boils down in understanding the regression analysis context, right? Okay. Okay. Now, when we plan to go for a kind of a regression, it is always that there should predictors and the response that we are talking about. And in R, you can see using this correlation function. Suppose that final dot algae. Let us concentrate only on the algae A1. And suppose that the data we are talking about final algae, say max pH. You can see the correlation is coming out to be minus 0.162, right? So immediately what you can do, you can just plot it at final algae dollar max pH, these are x-axis, and final algae dollar A1 all is equal to red, and maybe you can put some PCH is equal to 19. This is the correlation, and let me get down this. Okay, we can add more plots. This is the plot that which we have got. As you can see that this is the plot between this max pH and algae, right? So Y lab you can fix it as A1. Right? It must have some unit. So with the particular unit that is being considered, X lab is equal to MX pH. This is a beautiful plot that we have got. This is the plot, basically you have got it. And the correlation amongst them minus 1.6. In real data, so when I hear in many places different lectures of the experts, they always show in their presentation of PPT what is the ideal case. But when I talk to the scientists collaborating with them writing papers, I rarely find this find the ideal situations. So since it is a hands-on, I think should be a kind of a more of discussion kind where. But let us see what are the potential problems that we are getting, because reality is very different, right? Reality is much difficult than the bookish examples. So this is for the max pH, and their correlation amongst them is minus 0.1.6. Now, whether the correlation is significant or not. Because if you want to, when you're reporting it to the journal, you're writing your research papers, and you're considering two variables as a finding out some sort of relation, so it is expected there should be some sort of significant correlation between them, right? Now, whether this correlation is going to be significant or not, you need to report some p-value, right? Although it is being now heavily criticized, in particularly when these Bayesian things comes up into play, but it has its own advantage also. So every statistical method has its own advantage, disadvantage, but still scientific community is considering p-value is one of the tests for statistical significance. You can do it using core.test. That's a nice function available in R, which is final algae max pH and final algae A1. So basically this gives you the correlation test. It will perform the test for correlation. So let me go over here.
Statistically significant or not?
Yes. This is the line that I have written over, whether this correlation is statistically significant or not. So that means the null hypothesis here is that their correlation is 0. Whether this null hypothesis is being rejected or not. So as you can see here, that t value is coming out to be -2. This degrees of freedom is 182, and p value is coming out to be this 0.02714. And we all know that if p value turns out to be less than 0.05, so essentially you reject the null hypothesis. So you're right. So at 5% level of significance, the statement we make that at 5% level of significance, there is a significance correlation between them, but it is marginal case. If you consider a 1% level of significance, this does not seem to be that much correlated, right? So these are something. So that is why we always need to mention that it is suggested to report exact p-value also, because exact value of p-value, at least when it is marginal, you must report it, because that gives you a kind of a confidence on the conclusion that we are drawing. So that is why only just making less than 0.05 is not enough. So because the sole idea of p-value is that how much, with what degree of confidence, or with what degree of that we are rejecting or accepting the null hypothesis. And if you see that the 95% interval, it also does not contain 0. So basically you are there is a significant correlation amongst them. So similarly, the same thing you can do with this other predictors also, say MXPH, say MnO2. So core.test, you can perform that. Here you can see that the p-value is very small. So in this case, you are more confident that there seem to be here the p-value is very small, right? It is much lesser than 0.05. So there is a significant correlation between these two. So you can make a plot also against it. So what is the plot we can make here? That this is for MXPH and this is for MnO2. MnO2 algae, and this is red, and Y lab is going, X lab is going to be MnO2. This is the plot that we are going to have. As you can see that they seem to, here it seems to be more of a scattered way. Here this seems to be, there is at least there seems to be a nice pattern coming up over here. So increase in one leads to a nice increase in the others as well, right? Here this seems to be more of a kind of a scattered one, right? And similarly, it is suggested that you perform this analysis with all of them. Okay. So understand this behavior. Understand this behavior with all other predictors also. So this, you can consider this a kind of homework. Okay. So and check their behavior, how these guys are looking, right? Okay. Now suppose that you plan to plan to predict that A1. So let me come back to our PAR-MF row C1, 1. Okay. So let me plot this second graph. That from the graph it seems that MnO2 is possibly a better predictor because there is a better correlation and with A1. Right. So let me plot it. This is the plot that we have done. Now let us suppose that our first model fitting. So fit 1. Let me call it as a first model fitting. So fit LM is a linear model fit A1. Note down the comment, and MnO2 beta is equal to from which final underscore L. So write down the syntax very carefully. And these two lines, basically, first one is the plot, which you already did. This is the fit.
Yes, sir. We can go.
Okay. Let me execute this. So this fit we have got. Now we know that whenever we fit we do this, it is also known as a simple linear regression. We basically perform the simple linear regression, right? So simple linear regression, we have an intercept and we have a slope, right? So let us see what are the coefficients that we get. There is some comment called coefficient. So before going it, I think we write down the summary of fit. Summary of fit 1. So this will give you a broad level summary of it. Okay. This is very important. So this part which is very important. So basically what you have fitted a model that A1 is equal to, so your description of your model is that A1 is equal to B0 plus B1 star MnO2 plus error. So this is basically the model that you have fitted. And it's something called as a least square principle, which is being utilized to find out these estimators or these values, this one and this one, right? So if you want to find out only the coefficients, so first of all, before finding coefficient, let us just plot it. So AB line, we will do this AB line fit 1. Wall is equal to, say, give blue color, and it's a little bit line width I can increase a bit. LW equal to 2. So this is basically the least square line that we have got. Right? So as we can see that from now understanding this, if you want to get only the coefficients, then you can get, so these are the intercept. Intercept means it is how much from 0 where this line is cutting y-axis, what is the difference among them. And slope is like at what rate this line is increasing. So note that this, its sign is very important, that whether this is being plus or minus. So this is being plus means it says that if my MnO2 or the this level is high, that corresponds to higher level of high concentration of this particular type of algae A1. So this sign is very important. Now again the question comes whether these values that we have got, they are statistically significant or not, whether it has a really important impact on the output, which is A1. So how do we see that? We can obtain this from the summary. This is the part which we have to report it in the in our projects or articles, whichever we are writing. In our analysis, this must be reported. Is that this is the estimate, which is the value you have got, and this is the standard error. That means how much uncertainty associated with this estimate, because you have got it from the real data, and which is subject to randomness. So that means the estimates that you have got, they are subject to uncertainty. And then you have got corresponding standard error, that how much uncertainty is there. And then you got a t value, which is that estimate by this standard error. And this t value, and then you compute the corresponding p value. And this is something which you have to agree, you have to see. If this p value is very, very large, we accept the null hypothesis. That means the intercept can be considered as 0 itself. And this p value is which is very, very small, which is much, much smaller than 0.05. So that means MnO2 is a significant predictor for A1. So this particular value is significantly other than 0. Is that clear? So this is something which we need to actually report. Now you are thinking now that we are, so some other summary statistics also. If you see that multiple R squared, which coming out to be 0.6249, is that a good model or a bad model? All of you, many of you have done a little bit of stat courses, I'm sure about it. Like whether such an R square, so that means only 6.2%. So here this multiple R squared, so this value, how did you find it out? Feet $1 dollar. Okay, I'll see that how can it be done. But anyway, it is being reported over here. So I'm copying it. Multiple R square is equal to this means. What this means? It means that it is 6.2%. So 6.2% variability in A1 is explained by the predictor MnO2 by using a simple linear regression model. This is what explicit means. So that means your predictor is able to explain only 6.2% of the variability, which is not that great at all, right? We can easily understand that we want as much as variation in your response variable to be explained by the predictors, right? So now possibly you can think of, no, this seems to be like we are able to explain very smaller proportion of the variation. Okay, you probably are not satisfied. 6% it would be extremely difficult to report also, right? But you see that there are many other predictors are available, right? We have utilized out of so many information, out of so many predictor variables, I have used only one. So it is expected that its predictive power in understanding the variability in A1 would be less, right? This might happen. So everybody is able to run this part. Till now it's fine to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes? If you have any queries, you can ask in between. You can stop me and you can ask. No problem at all. Okay, so now suppose that you can plan to add up some more variables also. Okay. Now suppose that you can suppose that whether I can possibly add one fit2, which is equal to ln and what is lm and a1 dollar. What is the variables? You had another variable called max pH plus mn02. Data is equal to final underscore LD. Write this down. You found that this is a very smaller proportion of the variance in A1 been explained by a single very predictor. So you thought of adding more variables. Let us execute this. See the summary of it. Summary of fit2. Yes. So are you able to run this successfully? So I have added use the same code. Instead of MnO2, I added max pH also. This is the only addition, and I name it as fit2. So let me execute this part, and I got a summary. So this is the part which we need to see. Everybody has got this. We have to be in the same page.
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now what is the R square we have got here? We have got it to be, in this model, you have got it to be 0.08. So that means your R square is 8.2%. Earlier it was 6%. Now you got it to be something like 8%, right? So something in absolute sense, 2% increment, right? Now you have, if you want to predict your A1, you have two predictors. You have built two models. One is with using only MnO2. Another one is using MnO2 and one more predictor, which is max pH. Right? So natural question arises that whether inclusion of this additional variable gave significant improvement of the previous model. Remember it, what we are discussing, like we have a lot of other different PowerPoints in for companies, what we give. Those are all ideal cases. But when we are as a practitioners on performing hands-on, it is always suggested we do all the dirty stuffs, because that is what we get experienced in our research problems. Then the question is that how we will be checking it out. So if you want to do this, there is some nice function called ANOVA in R. If you give ANOVA fit1 and fit2, again I'm repeating, these are something which we actually use with all the data sets that I get where there is a prediction problem or something. We utilize all this. So ANOVA of this, so ANOVA is used essentially, you know that ANOVA is used for comparing different means, but ANOVA in this in R, which this ANOVA is available, it can also, you can also use this to compare to regression model itself. So let us execute it. Okay. Now what is said, your model 1 is, you understand it clearly, that model 1 is A1 MnO2. So that means only with one predictor, right? And your second one is model 2 with max pH and MnO2. Right? So max pH being added over here. Now ANOVA, what do we report? This is the p-value that you need to check. And this p-value, as you can see, that it is slightly just bigger than 0.05. So this is marginal case. You need to always report such marginal case. When there is a marginal case, you need to report it. So that means I could get only a marginal improvement, right? I can only get a marginal improvement after incorporating this additional extra variable, max pH and this. Is that clear? So in such a situation, we actually don't drop it. We retain both the things and try to apply further additional methods. That we will see. Is it clear? So what we learned? We learned that how we can compare two regression models in R, and whether two things are significantly different than others or not, that we can check it. Okay, is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now suppose that, so this is a marginal case. Now suppose that I plan to add, right? Suppose that this is a very marginal increment I have got and I may not be that much satisfied with it. So let me draw another fit3, which is LM A1. I am adding one more additional variable. So max pH plus MnO2 plus, suppose that is an additional variable we can possibly consider over here. Any suggestion you want to give? CL, CH, LA, So maybe CH, this is the one I am adding. Data is equal to, what is the data we can put here? The final underscore health, right? This is my fit 3. Right? Run it and let me execute this. Once it is execute, tell me that it is done. Yes. Yes, got it?
Yes.
Yes. Now let us see a summary of fit 3. This multiple R squared is now 0.1196. See the challenge of real data. Here, even after inclusion of 3 variables, we could get only 11% R square, right? So that is means only 11% of the response, 11% variance in the response is being explained, right? Now let us try to understand whether we get any significant update, significant improvement of this model. How can we do this? ANOVA again, right? ANOVA, fit 2 and fit 3. What we got? This time we got a real significant improvement, right? This time we got a real significant improvement. That means it might happen that if you keep on adding more and more predictors, it is expected that you are going to get more and more improvement, right, in your outcome. Okay. As you can see this, that here the p value is coming out to be very, very small. So there is no improvement to reject this null hypothesis. So that means you got a better improvement. What is from the summary of fit 3, what we have got? Okay, as you can see that this intercept is never being significant, right? Intercept and max pH, they does not really seem to be significant, right? So that means it is better. It is, you might think of that dropping these 2 variables from the fit 3 model, the final model you can possibly build. So maybe what you can do, this final model or another model will come up at the end, maybe that fit 4 is equal to, you want to update your model, update fit 3. You can possibly update your model fit 3. How do you update? You can drop certain variables. So dot tilde dot, and you see that mx pH is not really contributing much. So minus mx pH. So that means you are dropping this particular variable, which this is not coming out to be statistically significant. So another important function we saw, which is update function. Okay. You can update your existing model. So let me call this name as a fit 3 only, and which is update of fit 3. Execute it. And summary of FIT3, you can see that this is your R square remaining almost 11% only, but with one more additional variable being dropped. Okay. Now again you see that this intercept is also does not turning out to be statistically significant. We may possibly drop this intercept term also. So FIT3, I can again update this one, update FIT3, and I can drop this dot tilde dot -1. When I'm writing -1, we basically dropping the intercept term. So again I'm doing it, and let me see the summary of this FIT3. What we got? Magic happens. Please write this down, these three parts. Please try to appreciate this part. So I'll again explain. So write down the final FIT3. Okay, so what is the R square for FIT3? So FIT3 means it is the model with predictors MnO2 and CHLA. I'm just writing it out. FIT3 is the model for A1, MnO2 plus CHLA. This is the model which is FIT3. Can anybody tell me what is the R squared for FIT3?
Current one is 0.4383.
43, right? So 43%, right?
Yes, sir.
After happened like a magic, right? After dropping this intercept term, right?
Yes, sir.
So when we have all the predictors, we add the accuracy or the fit statistic, that is fitting give me nicely. R square 100% means a perfect fit. So more close to 100, more bigger means it is a better explanation. That means your response variable is better explained. Its variance in the response variable is better explained by the predictor using a linear regression model. Now, once we drop these unnecessary predictors, immediately there seems to be a very high increase in your multiple R squared value. And where both the predictors MnO2 and CHLA is coming out to be highly statistically significant. So from this analysis, actually we can summarize that this particular predictor, that index pH and intercept, these guys are not significant predictor in understanding the concentration level of A1 for this particular algae. Is it clear? Now you might argue that Suppose that you might argue that addition of one more variable, variables give me a very little increment over increment in r square over than the previous, right? So should I consider the little bit increment or the previous one? So always remember that to parameterize or to build this model, whenever you are you are adding one predictor, so that means you are making your model more complex. So addition of more variables, addition of more predictors means you are making the model more complex. Or we also use sometimes it is heavily parameterized. So in such a situation, there is something known as the principle of parsimony, which says that if you are getting a similar accuracy, not much significant difference, with a simple model and with a complex model, you should consider the simple model. You should consider the simpler model, and which is known as a principle of parsimony. This is a very, very important concept, in particular with the like that we should consider always. We should choose our model which is simple, and we should avoid actually making model more and more complex. So anyway, it is fundamental. Like this arguments, logic, and philosophy behind it goes into much more complex. It is something like if you those who are a bit more interested, Kwan and Anderson, 2002. That's an excellent book, but mainly for statisticians. Okay. So what we learned basically, so what are the things we learned? We can build how we can build a simple linear regression model, how we can build a multiple linear regression model, and how we can compare two regression models. That is the most important. And how we can update a model, whether addition of new predictors giving me significant improvement over the existing model or not. Right? To believe me, if you did not play with these variables or predictors, we would actually never be able to catch this particular idea that these two variables are turning out to be very, very important in predicting the level of A1. And that is why I think people consider that data analysis and regression is an art. It's more than a science. Okay, then you have to play with it. You have to see it's more and more meticulously. You have to understand it. Then we will be able to get into the problem rather than some ready-made code available and feed our data into that and some outcome we have got. That really does not give a feeling of it. So, in my opinion, in that case, the learning is heavily compromised. Well, of course, we apply that. Many modern techniques, like many advanced techniques, also use it. No doubt with that. But I think first experiment, at least I always do this. Like get as much as flavor to the data. In this line, I can share with one experience. Recently, with I think environmental science and pollution. This is one of our recent article appeared there, and when the collaborator gave me this data, And I actually literally at least 5 or 6 different methods just for experimentation I did it. And after that we understood that like what was the reason why we are not getting the some desired result, that what we were expecting. So it is very important that you look at the distribution of the individual data. When we observe that the data we have got, so in our case we have four different locations. I'm just sharing a slide. I think a picture from the slide. Where did it go? Somewhere it is there. Okay. So there actually we have observed that when we clubbed the data from four different water bodies, this is another problem for some water bodies in Sundarban area that we have done this. And we observed that when we consider the full data together, the predictive power of the models are coming very poor. And when we have seen a distribution of each of the parameters, right? Each of the water quality parameters that we have seen. And we observed that 2 ponds are coming from a different location, and another 2 water bodies are from a different location. In water, 2 water bodies are heavily contaminated with heavy metals, and another 2 ponds, 2 water bodies are not that much contaminated. So that means the distribution of the pH or the zinc, cadmium, these are the parameters for which data has been collected. There is clearly a bimodal distribution that we have observed. So that means two extremes in the same model, the data you are imputing, two extremes are being included. So overall prediction, it is not really possible to get. So then after looking at that, we actually on data preparation step, we segregated the data 2 ponds. For one is the heavily contaminated ponds, another one is the less contaminated ponds, and then we have build separate predictive models using multiple linear regression. We actually went to go for fitting neural networks and everything. Still, we are not getting the satisfactory answer. They are getting highly unstable. Just as the data pre-processing steps, that is why it is very, very important that we know our data, their distribution very, 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 very well. A simple t-test, which I should not use the term simple, a t-test, z-test, these are very much powerful. Once we know our data, we can classify data, we can segment our data in such a way that we can very efficiently use these tests itself to solve our problem. And many times this very simple models are actually very efficient enough to give you a better prediction, because whenever we increase the complexity of the model, we actually incorporating very higher variance with your prediction. This is a very strong statement I make. Again, I'm repeating. Had there been the board or something, I could evidently draw a lot of pictures, but I'm sorry. So whenever we are making our model complex, that means your uncertainty, more parameter means, and you're estimating many parameters from the data. And there is a standard error associated with estimation of every parameters. So when you have a lot of parameters in the model, lot of uncertainty being added into the model. So when you are making a prediction, the prediction bound, that prediction error, you are going to have a very, very higher prediction error band. Whereas if you have a simple model, your uncertainty associated with the parameters are less, or not so many parameters is compared to less. Even with the training data, the data in your hand, it possibly did not perform so well that it performed, but you will have a lesser error in terms of the prediction. So your prediction intervals those are coming out to be in a desired or or in a better range. The answered industry set will be much better. So that is why in practice we actually always look for simpler models, not really very complex models. Now the contextually, when we come into like, as we observe it, that with time both are coming extremes. Having a very large data or having a very small data, both are extremes, and both are equally important. So when we are having a very large data, that gives us a whole lot of flexibilities. So we can check out with lot of models. But when we have a small data, the sparse data, that is, these methods are not really much helpful. So we need to add up more and more assumptions, more and more distributions with respect to the choice of the parameters, and we need to go for the Bayesians. And nowadays, this is actually becoming one of the very top. Yeah. In future, this Bayesian and machine learning ideas, which are being executed by ecologists a lot, and we can actually talk about lot of small scale or big scale case studies how such problems can be solved. So let's see in future, hopefully that workshops that we used to do now in between, uh, after studying on many different sorts of problems, we also got to learn many newer and newer methods, and we also would like to uh, collaborate and see and talk about it to the people. So only something should not be only within the research paper. So this is what my personal view is. So in this case, this is one of the, so if we want to conclude this, and this is the slides which I have already provided to you. So let me just I think I'll just share it. Stop sharing. Let me create it. Just as a summary. So this is the one. This is the slide that we have. It is being already shared with you, right? This is, we have sent it. Now, deliberately I put this let us start over here, because you know that this is the problem over here. You know that here we did not consider this missing is being considered with this over here, right? So it did not work out. So you have to use here read.table, and you have to consider this is.na, right? Or this na.strings that you need to consider. So na.strings. So let us start. Here you use your own code that we have written. Okay, so here you need to write down your own code. This is the only change that we have, and the rest of the things, please have a look at it. And these are the models are there already being explained. So these are different options which R provides, this LM function provides for performing linear regression, both simple and multiple linear regression. Some example, some little bit explanation about R square, adjusted R square, and these are how we can compare these models. This, it's a hands-on, right? so I had to like it is better that we get our hand also dirty, right? So there we can compare these models also. So then updating models, little bit of thing is there. These are, so please write this down. So we are just run out of time. So these important plots give a special emphasis on these plots. Okay. So these plots are very important. So we actually expect this to be like a straight line, and this is something we want these black lines to be on this straight line itself, right? So that we have to ensure that the distribution of the errors that we are having, these are normally distributed. So the residuals are very important. So you will come across this. So in this color, which codes are in this color, that means you can copy it from the PowerPoint and execute it. Okay. and black you don't have to, these are not. So similarly over here, which is in red color, you can take them and you can fit them. So as you can see that here the example is also given in terms of season and speed, and they are categorical variable, right? These are categorical variables. So your PowerPoint already contains the information how we can incorporate categorical variables into the model. And you will see that every output, now you understand what are the output means. We explained it. And now you can copy this and you can in your write in your R file, and you can do that. And these are some of the potential problems. So these are the explanation is there that what are the potential problems, going to see the non-linearities and all. So these are some simulated codes over here. You can run this down and you are going to get this picture. So if such a pattern in the errors we get, we say that there is a non-linearity. So that means linear regression probably is not a good idea. Linear regression is not probably a good idea. And the heterogeneity of error, when such a situation arises, so then you say that it is a errors are heterogeneous in nature. So basically at every level of X, the distribution is different. So at different measurements level, your the variance associated with the estimates are different. And similarly, sometimes we apply transformation. For example, this is an exercise for you. You use this log A1. Okay, use this transformation log A1, then fit the models, then fit the MnO2. Okay, you apply this transformation log A1. This is a homework for you, and then you do the same exercise and let me know what you have got it. And test for residuals is how we can check that residuals are being normally distributed. So these are already being placed over here, so I did not get into there. Okay, so should we go for it? So you will be able to answer on your own. So these are some examples how we can see that when it is normal, when it is deviation from normal. Here it is deviation from normal, and here it is normal. Here this is deviation from normal, so it is not normal. Here also it is deviation from normal, so here also it is not normal. When it is normal, these black lines, black dots are going to be on the this straight line. And similarly, consider outliers. So with this comment, I think I'll going to do in ecology, the data are seldom modeled adequately by simple linear regression models, which is the truth. That regression models, but if they are, you are lucky. And we are dealing with a very dirty data, and we can see that suddenly we got a 43% increment, whereas 3 variables including were giving us only 11%. It is the common case. So please don't get sad. If you see that your data is showing such pattern, please don't be sad. You be happy. That means some interesting things are hidden in your data, and as an analyst, you need to find it out. And I'm sure that the kind of advancement or kind of thinking process that currently we are having, we are sure that you'll be able to find it out. If you apply a linear regression model on your data, then you are implicitly assuming a whole series of assumptions. And once the results are obtained, you need to verify all of them. So whether the assumptions that you had, you need to definitely verify all of them, and that's called a validation process. This is actually the main important part. That when we say that I have built a model, so if you say that I have built a model and you feel that okay, my work is done, no, not really done. There actually the main problem starts whether I can apply this model in practice or not, because you always need to ensure that this particular model has to satisfy the statistical assumptions that needed. So there are hundred thousands, whole lot of models, and every methods come up with their own limitations. Whenever we are planning to apply one model, immediately you need to check the errors. So the PowerPoints, the codes are there. Please run it, and then only you will understand that whether it is satisfying satisfying the assumptions or not. If not, we need to investigate. So all the problems what we are solving, please take the words from me. This is precisely the same way I approach it. Not even different way. We at our master's level, we of course teach deep neural networks, convolution networks as a mathematics program. So I have to teach all of them. But believe me, when I'm interacting and I'm getting my data from my zoologist friend, Dr. Mukherjee, my species distribution modeling with whom we are building species niche models, Dr. from Achyut Banerjee or Abhishek Mukherjee, them when I get from Gujarat, we collaborating on understanding the vultures extinctions and all. Every time I start from this one, because these simplistic approaches give us the most and most important insight about the data. And if I want to get a good prediction, I need to understand my data best. And I am the expert. If you have the data with this simple understanding only, you are the expert who knows the data best. So I think with this, I'm going to finish today. So it's a little bit of homeworks and PowerPoint is being given to you, so you can run those codes. And if you have any queries tomorrow at the starting, we can address it. Then possibly we'll take a little bit of the multivariate methods. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you for the hands-on session. Some participants might be lagging in some steps. We'll take care of them. We'll help them to get over from it. The session is really useful and interesting, sir. Tomorrow we'll resume, sir.
Yeah, sure. And I'm sorry again. I really don't know how to take hands-on in online.
We can understand your
But
situation.
I think this is the reality we need to face. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, sir. But you have prepared a very precise way for easy understanding only you have made, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye. So should I log off? Yeah.
Sir?
So should I just log off? Oh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can end.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Participants,